All right, let's talk about that Kansas City Royals team you just talked about. They signed Jordan Lyles. They signed Ryan Yarborough, 1-year deals here. The rotation's going to look a little different. However, Jordan Lyles, he was with Baltimore last year. He looked really good. I mean, to be completely honest, his ERA wasn't as amazing as the stat line show, but he 8 innings. I'm actually a little surprised that he signed with a team like Kansas City, a team that's not expected to make the playoffs. Maybe he hopes that this is a team that he can kind of do what he did at Baltimore last year, let them get a 30 game swing like they did in years past. I don't know. But I like this Jordan Lyles pickup. It gives them an opportunity to get more innings as well. Maybe a nice bridge for some of the younger guys in Kansas City. As for Ryan Yarborough, I got to talk about him. He's an Old Dominion faithful. He's from Old Dominion University. But he had a rough go last season for Tampa Bay. They like to put him in different positions. We saw him obviously in 2018. He was 5th in the Rookie of the Year award race. He had a fantastic rookie year. 2020 was a kind of weird year. 2021 was pretty dreadful, and last year was kind of weird as well. He's in the starter role. He's in the starting pitcher role. He's been in the bullpen as well. Ryan Yarbrough, I think, needs to find a place, and hopefully he can find that in Kansas City, no matter what it is. If there's rotation, if they decide to give him the starter role in front of some of the younger pitcher, whatever the case may be, I think they just need to find him a role. However, this rotation is going to look a little different. So far, we're not seeing Zach Greinke back at Kansas City. What's your thoughts about adding Lyles and Yarborough to this Kansas City squad?
Yeah, I think you're 100% bang on with Yarborough. I think it's everybody will tell you that Tampa Bay is such a great organization because of their versatility and how they utilize players. But the flip side of that is that not every player can flip flop between roles and things like that. Yes, Yarborough has had some injuries and stuff like that too. But those are two things that I think kind of equally share in the lack of consistent success that he's had. So I'm really hoping for his sake that Kansas City can provide him with some consistency and in a way, in an environment to establish himself again. But as you said, the rotation looks different, but really it doesn't look different, because I think what you're looking at is a rotation full of 4 to 5+ ERA rotation pieces. And that's fine. Right? Like, nobody's expecting Kansas City to win it all this year. They're very clearly rebuilding, and that's fine. So a guy who can pitch a full season and eat innings and not have, allow the Royals to not force their younger guys into roles before they're ready, I think that has value for an organization. And it allows him to kind of establish himself on a team that has no expectations, so he can stand out a bit, right? And maybe he's a summer trade target that he ends up on a contending team anyway. So there's a lot that could happen for him, but overall, I think the rotation here is it's just about kind of eating innings and getting through a season, unfortunately. And I know that doesn't sound very exciting if you're a fan of the Royals, but I think what you do have is you will have a very exciting team in short order. And unfortunately, though, you got to get through these phases of signing guys who will just eat innings or take at bats in place of rushing younger guys before they're ready.
There's a lot of exciting players on this team. I mean, we talk
100%.
about veterans like Lyles and Yarborough, but when we talk about some players going into their second seasons, Vinny Pasquantino, another Old Dominion guy. It's like the Old Dominion Royals, so I'm really excited for this squad this year. Vinny Pasquantino's Pasquatch, if you will, he had a fun coming up last year. I really enjoyed watching him, and I think he really came on the map a little bit. If he was on any other squad other than Kansas City, he would have got a lot more recognition, but we still heard enough about him to show that he was the real deal. When you hear about that and you find out that he's playing on a team that's in last place in the AL Central, yeah, he's something that's worth mentioning. So pretty cool. I'm excited to see what Vinny Pasquantino can do this season. Another player, Bobby Witt Jr. as well. Obviously a very, very impressive player. There's some very fun young core here, and I'm just kind of talking about the top ones that we all know about. They have a good prospect system as well. They have some new management, new coaching coming in. So we'll see what they think about their pipeline, their farm system. If they think it's garbage, they think it's good. Let's see what their thoughts and their strategy is, because lately the Kansas City strategy has not worked in their favor. So maybe the turnaround could be the next few seasons. However, Vinny Pasquantino, Bobby Witt Jr., what's your thoughts about these two players moving forward in this season? Again, lots to be excited about for this squad.
Absolutely. If I'm a Kansas City Royals fan, I'm buying their jerseys immediately and wearing them very proudly. Those are two very exciting young men who are about to put Kansas City kind of back on the map, I think, soon. And Pasquantino is somebody who if you can imagine how impressive he was in his 72 game stint, next year the projections are kind of even better. 24 home runs. What's interesting with him is his walk rate last season was actually higher than his strikeout rate. 11.7 walk rate, 11.4 strikeout rate. This is a guy who can very clearly handle the bat well, and he's projected for a weighted runs created plus. I know you don't have it in front of you. I do. Take a guess at what his projected. Just take a guess, because
based on your home runs, based on your percentage to strikeout, I'll go one. Let's go just 121. How about that?
Not even close.
Whoa.
140. Wow. 140.
Yes.
Out of think about that, right? Like that's and what is it? Where are we at here? He is 25 years old.
Yep.
Right. Like this is something special. And if I'm a fan of the Kansas City Royals, and so defensively speaking, he's got his issues and base running and all of that stuff. That's not his thing, but he's a first baseman, almost the prototypical power hitting kind of good hitting first baseman. So I'm not worried about the rest of it. And as far as Bobby Witt goes, man, this guy, I don't know how. I just don't know. I don't know that there are enough words to describe how kind of exciting and electric he can be. At 22 years old, already one of the more exciting people in baseball. 30 stolen bases last year to go along with 20 home runs. And the projections have him doing more of the same. 26 home runs, almost 30 stolen bases, a weighted runs created plus of 115, almost 4 wins above replacement. And again, this guy is 22 years old. This is this is drool-worthy stuff we're talking about. This is how Blue Jays fans feel about their first baseman and their shortstop, Vladdy and Bo. Well, Kansas City, they have a pair that is just as exciting. So if I'm a fan of the Royals, I'm loving what I'm seeing from there, and then I'm drooling over what's going to happen in the next couple of years as these two continue to just carry this team forward.
Yeah, hopefully they can find a way to add the right players around them. Another good young guy, Nick Pratto, he's a good guy to pay attention to as well for Kansas City. There's a lot of good ones in this. When do you think that they're going to move into that window to compete? How far out are they? I don't think we are at that this year, but how far are we from Kansas City saying that they are a playoff contending team?
Oh man, it really depends on the development, not just of the two that we just talked about, right? But as we've seen in Toronto and everywhere else, that having two young, exciting, elite pieces on a baseball field doesn't really amount to a whole lot, right? So the Kansas City Royals are still a few years away. I think when you start seeing them, when you start seeing them pay for a starting pitcher, like a legit starting pitcher, not an innings eater, but somebody who's actually whose purpose is to win games as opposed to placehold. That's when I think that'll be the start of it, and I think we're maybe at least 2 years away from that. I could be wrong, and I'd love to be wrong for the sake of our Kansas City Royals fans out there who are listening to this right now. I'd love to be wrong, but I think 2-3 years is probably that's how far away we are.
I think you're right. I'm going to lean more towards the 2 than the 3, though. I think they're on their way. I hope this new management gets it right. Speaking of that, 65 and 97 last year. They were last in the AL Central. Over under on win totals, 65 in 2023.
Over. I'll take the over.
Yep, same
Just
here. I think
just because I was so hard on the rotation.
I think they're over as well, though. I think
Yeah.
that we'll see them. I'm gonna say they are not the worst team in the AL Central this year. Well, you'll hear my projections
They are not.
at the end.